Ryan Buck. Russia's invasion of Ukraine was the largest buildup of troops on European soil since the darkest days of the Cold War. Stated by Aaron Burnett, a news anchor and journalist since 2003 on CNN's segment Out Front on February 16, 2022. We're all wondering how we can help Ukraine fight Russia, but what we might want to focus on now is how we can defend ourselves from Russia. We may not be seeing death and destruction here in the United States, but we are being hit hard at the pump. Gas prices rose a little bit because of this war in Ukraine. First, I will talk about Russia's plan of attack. Next, I will talk about Ukraine's defense strategy, and finally, I will close with what lessons can be learned from this invasion. Let's start by talking about Russia's plan of action. Russia has a very specific war plan for Ukraine. John King, a journalist for 35 years and CNN's chief national correspondent on the segment Inside Politics on February 23, 2022, said that we are seeing a combination of normal warfare and cyber attacks. Russia will have a good first-line defense, blow all Ukrainian communications, and then do even more cyber attacks. Joan Edgeville has a defense analysis PhD and is a researcher in FOI's Department for Security Policy and Strategic Studies. In the journal Defense Studies on September 2020, states that this type of warfare is called hybrid warfare. We saw this in Georgia in 2008 and in Crimea in 2014. Not only does Russia have a very specific plan of action, its leader, Vladimir Putin, will get what he wants by any means possible. He keeps bringing world leaders to Moscow to have them announce their support for Russia. He's doing this in case his invasion of Ukraine leads to a world war. Not only is Putin determined, he has great justification for his actions, in his opinion. Russia does not want Ukraine to become a part of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, better known as NATO. No one interfered with this invasion because Russia is not a part of NATO, meaning they don't need to follow any of the restrictions. Russia also suspended the CFE treaty. This treaty's purpose was to prevent large-scale military mobilizations and mass armored attacks. So when Russia left this treaty, so did its military restrictions. Now that we know a little bit about Russia's plan of action, let's talk about Ukraine's. Ukraine's defense strategy is not as well planned out as Russia's offensive strategy. Russia and Ukraine have been in a war since 2014, so there wasn't really any real sense of panic on the Ukrainian side. The state of emergency wasn't declared until February 23rd, the day before the invasion. The Ukrainian foreign minister said there was no evacuation plans. Plan A was trying to fend off an invasion, and Plan B is to fight. Boris Sanchez, a graduate from Syracuse University with a degree in broadcast journalism and international relations, on the CNN segment New Day Sunday on February 27, 2022, said that Russia does not have air supremacy in the skies of Ukraine and are taking more casualties than expected. Ukrainians are doing everything they can to defend their homes. Now that we have a basic rundown of both sides of the war, we can discuss some lessons to be learned from them. As I mentioned earlier, Russia is using hybrid warfare. This is something the United States is aware of and would expect to see from Russia in the foreseeable future. The United States has also been monitoring the Ukrainian-Russian border for months now. They saw that they moved blood, medical equipment, ammunition, warships, and troops to the border. The United States also warned Ukraine about a possible invasion months in advance. First, I talked about Russia's plan of attack. Next, I discussed Ukraine's defense strategy. And finally, I talked about some lessons to be learned from this invasion. There are many lessons the United States defense officials can learn from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. None of us have experienced this massive of a buildup of troops in our lifetimes, but learning from the past and being prepared for the future is the best way the United States can be as ready as possible for whatever may lie ahead.
4:38, great.